welcome. Botched Wrestling Podcast, back at it again. Day later, as we normally do. Back with Dan the Man Savage and Corporate James, myself. Um, Big weekend of wrestling. Very good Raw, very good NXT, very good SmackDown, as we've come to say. Isn't that right, Dan? A lot. They've been on par. We really haven't had anything too big here or there. So first
would agree.
off, there's one thing I wanted to talk to you about. I know you didn't get to see much of the NXT PLE Vengeance Day, which is cool that I think they're letting NXT like use an old WWE WWF PLE title, right? Vengeance Day
Yeah.
used to be a main roster, right? Or am I getting old? Well, that is true, but
No, I think that's right.
okay. So I mean, right off the bat, it had a triple threat of Oba Femi. You know how high I am on him. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Oba retains the title. You had Fallon Haiti versus Stephanie Vecchio. Stephanie takes the title. Well deserved. She should have already had a title. We had the 4-way for the women's championship between Julia, Roxanne Perez, the Prodigy, who just qualified for the Elimination Chamber as of last night, Bailey, and Cora Jade. Big thing on this, Cora Jade looked very, very good in the ring. There are some spots that looked like they kind of slowed down to make sure they hit them, but overall, I thought it was a very good, fast-paced 4-way match for the women's title. Ethan Page and Javon Evans. Side note, I think Ethan Page is kind of fallen in the weeds right now with this feud with Javon Evans. I would like to see him get back in the title shot somehow. But I'm sure that they have something planned for him, because a guy like that, you don't sign away from AEW unless you're truly planning to put the title on him again. We had the tag team championship match of Fraxum versus Josh Briggs and Yoshi Inamura, and Fraxum, which is Axum and Dacian Fraser, retained, and we had the strap match of Eddie Thorpe versus Trick Williams, with Eddie Thorpe basically cheating with a low blow, if I remember correctly, and that's how he wins the strap match. Overall, solid pay-per-view. I believe the pre-show for this started at 5 o'clock, I was telling you. I think 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So,
it was early.
With Sam Roberts on it again, which is awesome. I'm a big fan of him. And then the Not Sam podcast going on with his wrestling podcast. Very good. Tune into it. But the big thing from this match, well, two big things, right? We had a TNA crossover. Somebody specific came to talk to the Rock's daughter about doing some TNA crossover stuff, and it was our boy Santino. Do you remember him, Dan?
Santino Marella?
Yep. He made his appearance, and the crowd was loving it. The way he came back there, he showed off like his corporate authority, like badge that he has at TNA, right? Because that's what allows him to make all this the matches at TNA. He has like this FBI decal badge or whatever, and he was showing that off. Surprised that the NXT crowd knew who he was, right? Kind of a younger generation that goes to those, roughly, probably half.
Yeah.
He was what? Mid 2000s superstar, would you say, Dan?
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah.
Right. So like everything he did big, I didn't think they would be able to see. But it's awesome, right? Like, it's like, this is what we talked about. Like, if TNA is gonna make the big jump they're trying to make, like, this is where they need to do it, right? Like, they need to hit these NXT pay-per-views. Start small with bringing your people in there. I'm sure NXT is gonna have their people bounce back and forth. And this is the way you do it. You bring back a WWE champion, right? Like he was the United States champion back in 2012.
Yeah.
So he's had a belt, um, which is weird because he announced his retirement for WWE at a live event in Toronto back in 2014 because he has. Oh, that's right, that's right. He had announced his retirement because he has multiple neck issues, including the stenosis, which needed to be fixed. So he's double fused. Yeesh. Um,
Yeah. That's never good.
but his character was great, right? Like overall in WWE, like as corny as you thought his character was, I feel like it always got over, right?
Yeah, I think he always did a good job to
Right,
keep that. Yeah.
right. So that was cool. Um, the other thing too, as I said, Stephanie Becker won the title. Julie retained her title. Sorry, Stephanie won the U.S. Women's title. Julia retained her title in the four-way. At the end of the match, uh, Julia standing there puts her title up as showing it off that she's still the best, which she is. Um, music hits for Stephanie. Stephanie comes out, stands toe to toe with her, stares at her belt, puts her title up. Then they stand side by side, put their titles up. They get, uh, I don't think they got a "You deserve it" chant. They got some type of chant before the clapping happened, but they got applauded. They both should have been applauded. It was a great PLE. And my girl, siren hits the breaking ball bomb herself. Jordan Grace walks into the ring, stares down both champions. They're going all in. They're going all in with Jordan from the beginning, aren't they, Dan? They're
Yeah,
not,
but yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think she'll get it right away because they just crowned Julia the champion and Stephanie just got her title. But now Jordan's on the hunt for titles. Well done, Sean. Like it was perfect, right? Like because we all was wondering what are they were gonna do with Jordan because everybody knows Jordan's been backstage since their last TNA, right? She cried
Right.
walking out of TNA. She signed her contract the next day. She understands that WWE NXT is her next stop. And with Roxanne Perez getting beat in the four-way, as we saw on Raw, Roxanne versus Raquel Rodriguez for the chamber spot, Roxanne wins. Now you got a strong push of Roxanne on the main roster, and who's better to plug that hole at NXT than Jordan Grace, right? And I said this because my dad was asking me about this PLE or as he still calls it, the pay-per-views that are on Peacock. Um, this this is possibly. Now I did write a article on this that I'm looking to get published somewhere. I know we had Sasha and Becky and Bailey and Charlotte. This is possibly the most talented women's roster in women's wrestling history. From what they just encompassed, from sending Roxanne on her way, right? Like everybody knew about Roxanne since she was training under Booker T and she became the youngest champion at his promotion at 17, 18, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the prodigy's gone. You plug in Jordan Grace, who is a TNA champion 5 or 6 times over, who's traveled the world and did the indies. I don't think she ever wrestled in Japan, but not everybody's built for Japan, right? So,
Yeah, I don't know if she has or not.
um, so,
Ooh.
oh,
Oh, do we have a drop in?
oh, hey,
Oh, we have a drop in.
Hi, everyone.
how's it going tonight? Good.
It's going pretty well.
Good. Well, I'm glad.
And I was able to join.
I'm I'm glad that our people were able to contact your people. Um, we will keep this short, as I was just talking about how NXT possibly has the best roster in women's wrestling history. I just they're just that talented. They are superb athletes, and adding Jordan Grace to it, just I think that makes another fail for AEW. But we'll talk about them later on in the show. So to transition now, Dan, Raw, right? Because we already talked about SmackDown last week or over the weekend. Raw on 2/17. Since we have a guest, an honorary guest, the first ever guest of the Botched Wrestling Podcast, the two-time. Okay, well,
First and only.
take that down. Take that down. I have to edit that out now.
Wait,
No.
you record screen too?
Yeah,
Yes.
I would have brushed my hair if I knew this was a thing.
hair.
You can be seen.
Here you go. That better?
You literally didn't say that I needed to
Okay.
brush my hair.
Anyways,
Clearly you don't watch the podcast.
Yeah, clearly, yeah. For the two-time Botched Wrestling Podcast and the Domini, my sister that I once gave the Cobra clutch to in a driveway, waiting for the bus, got detention for a week.
Caused her to have brain surgery.
Okay,
Yep.
well, hypothetically, I probably
Those
fixed
things
it.
are linked. Those things are linked.
But did you watch the fall? That's not true. Let's not start spreading fake news here.
I lie. You're right.
Did you stay awake for the full Raw? Because I know sometimes you have not been able to.
Yeah. Well, I stayed awake for the first 25 minutes. I fell asleep, and then I woke up and I rewatched it from the beginning.
Oh,
Smart. I like that. How do you feel about this 2.5 hour time frame? This 2 hours and 20 minutes time frame.
You know what? Last week I thought it felt a bit long, but this week it went by pretty fast. I'm not sure if it was order of events or that I had just woken up and was feeling refreshed, but
that probably has something to do with it. Yeah, I agree. I feel like the 2 hours and 20ish to 2 hours and 35 minutes that they've been doing, as long as they start off with a banger, which I think we can all agree that they did with Sami Zayn, coming out basically crying in the ring about his injury, which I get. I think that was the perfect way to start this, right? Because with a elimination chamber up in what, 13 days? Not even. 11 days? Yeah, 11 days. Tim and KO. It's gonna be wild, right? Dan, it's gonna be wild. You think with them too?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, my initial thing was like, I don't need to see this again, right? We've seen it so many times. If we've seen it, we've seen it a lot of times in WWE. If you're fans of theirs outside of WWE, you've seen it a bunch of times.
I have 235 saved files from them on the Indies, including them in the Bucks.
So, but the only thing I'll say for this being a little different with WWE this time is adding this unsanctioned thing, which they rarely do unsanctioned storyline match, right? They very rarely do this, right? We see all the no DQs and all the anything goes and all this, but to say unsanctioned is not something they do too often. So it leads me to believe this will be over the top. It might even be the main event of the night. Well, because the whole idea of it being unsanctioned, you put it on when the show is done, in theory.
Yeah, you gotta.
It's either first or last. Yeah, it's either first or last in that sense. It just makes less sense to put it on in the middle and say it's unsanctioned. Maybe they'll still do that, but I almost wonder if it'll be last. I mean, it's Canada too, right? So it's a big deal for them being in Canada.
It's probably last.
Yeah, I think it might be last. That's my guess. So it brings in a new element. It actually makes me regret that we didn't get tickets.
Yeah, I know. That's the same thing I thought of that. Kels, what's your thoughts? Are we thinking first, last? Where does this fall on the card? Sorry.
I think it's going in the middle because Dan said it's going to go last, so I want to do the opposite of what Dan says.
Okay.
So I'm going to say it's going to go in the middle. Maybe they're going to do like a lights out type of vibe. Heard that earlier, really stuck with me.
Well, wow, where'd you hear that? Where'd you hear that?
But
what wrestling savant gave you that knowledge?
I just want to do a quick plug.
Oh, jeez.
That the next guest on the Botched Wrestling Podcast should be the man in the smiley green shirt. So, man in the smiley green shirt, if you're listening,
it's just a green shirt.
It does. Green shirt guy.
Smiley on it.
Well, sometimes it does.
It does have a smiley on it, but he's just green shirt guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, green shirt guy. I don't care. What I need is I need you to join this podcast, and I have one question. What is your employment status?
Well, if you go to Squared Circle on Reddit, which Dan does not, because he says he does not have time for the IWC.
There's enough toxicity in my life. I don't need to add that.
It's not.
Are you referencing someone in particular?
No, multiple.
Okay, this is not therapy hour, guys. Let's get back to the show here.
Okay, but anyways,
I might be referencing you and your 7 personalities.
Okay, all right. Okay. Well, there goes the wrestling podcast.
That I'm the personality hire. Okay, Dan. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. So I'm about to wrap things up because you know how I love a good nighttime routine. But
so
one last thing I wanted to say.
Is it about Dominic Mysterio?
No, he's irrelevant in my world. Once I found out this whole thing is a ruse, I lost interest.
Well, it's
because
still
he's really not
real
dirty.
tough. It's still real tough. But that mustache, that's what makes him dirty dumb.
That makes me uncomfortable. It gives me Joe Dirt.
And the mustache is real.
It is real, even though Big J thinks it's...
Maybe I'll see him in a different light. I need to sleep on it. But what I'd like to go back to is our ladies. Naomi.
Oh, and Bianca?
Yes. Here's my thing.
Hold on.
I have this sneakily suspicion that Naomi did it.
So I have a follow-up to that. That's what Dan and I talked about before on the podcast, but I was thinking about this. Her husband is Montez Ford, right? And the Street Profits. No,
Naomi's husband is Jimmy Uso.
Correct.
Bianca is Montez, yeah.
Correct. So Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, the Street Profits, they've always been a face to the crowd, right? But all of a sudden, they seem to take off now that they're going heel. What would happen if this comes out to be that Bianca is the one that actually hurt Jade? Because of jealousy of her being the hottest free agent that they've signed in women's history, basically, because everyone's been talking about her. Bianca hurts her. Bianca hurt her because she wants the shot at the titles.
I thought Naomi hurt her so that she could get fame from Bianca by joining her.
Yeah.
And she's riding off the back of Bianca.
Yeah, that's possible too. But some of the stuff that's been happening seems a little bit too obvious.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, what if this is a long play for WWE? And you basically start creating a stable with a heel Bianca helping out the Street Profits, and then you have Jade and Naomi carrying the titles forward. Because worst case, we're going to see Bianca and possibly Rhea, right? Because Charlotte picked Tiffany.
Rhea.
So there's nobody there for Rhea unless...
Rhea's her own.
And is Bianca in the chamber?
Yes.
So if Bianca wins the chamber, what if the bad guys that are the Street Profits now help Bianca cash in? She beats Rhea. Now she has a tag title and a full title, and Jade's still out of the picture. That's what I've been thinking. Like, what if this is the start? Like, you know how everybody wants John Cena to turn heel and just do a heel run? We have never seen Bianca do one. So what if this is the start of it?
You can't be a heel in jean shorts. I'm sorry. It's been weighing
You
heavily
could. You
on
just have
me.
a Confederate flag tattoo.
It's just been. He would never. He wears sweatbands on his wrist.
No, but I'm just saying the personality in
He
general would
is
have to have that
one for
tattoo,
the
right?
people. He is one for the people. He will never be a heel. He's
Okay.
going to finish out his career strong. Is anyone concerned that my one eye is lazier than the other one?
No, we expected that. But okay.
I hope I'm not having a medical event. But anyways, so I really appreciate being a guest on the pod.
The two-time guest. Two-time.
You guys are doing a real nice thing here.
Yeah, we try.
I wish that you
Low
guys
budget, but we try.
I wish you guys would start an Instagram so that I can put my questions. I can send you questions in the DMs.
Funny story, we do have an Instagram.
Mm.
And you really don't pay attention at all.
And we do have a Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is
you no longer have an X account.
If I knew you had an Instagram, I could be your content manager, but y'all always want to separate me out of the business.
Oh.
Well,
but that's okay.
So right now, like any good startup, this is all unpaid.
I feel a little bit like Jacob Fatu being left behind to care for myself.
That's a good callback.
At this point, I'm going to see myself out of this conversation. But remember, green shirt with the smiley face, I need you to be the next guest on this podcast.
Jump on Reddit. He hops into the squared circle from time to time and just say.
Does he have an Instagram? Because that might be easier for me.
He does.
Yes,
it's, I think it's Superfan Smileys.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll tell you in a second.
If you guys can, what would be helpful is if you dropped his handle in the comment section of this podcast when it goes live.
So,
follow.
The thing is, right, the IWC, if you drop any handle, there's a 50-50 chance you don't know how it's going to go with the IWC. Like, I think you really need to, like, the next time you have some free time, jump into the squared circle on Reddit and just experience it for like 5 minutes.
I'm not going to do that.
Don't do it.
You would see what happens in there.
Well, I'm not going to do it, but obviously this has been fun.
Obviously, for the two-time Botched Wrestling Podcast guest, my sister, everybody's favorite principal.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for joining. We'll be in touch next week with your payment. Adios.
Cool.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. She's not.
Bye.
Bye.
See you, Kelsey.
It's not letting me hang up.
Oh man,
Everyone relax. Hold on.
The show has just gone off the rails now.
Yep, it has.
And she's frozen. There we go. Okay, well, maybe not. I don't know. There it is. Now she's gone.
Okay. Anyways, as always, that was unexpected and wild as always. She dropped a little bit of lingo there, Dan, huh?
Yeah, she's been studying for sure.
She dropped a little bit of lingo. But back to Raw. So I'm guessing you watched Raw then? Or you caught them the majority of Raw?
Majority of it, yeah.
What were your thoughts? Like, she did bring up a good point. Like, I felt this one kind of flew by. I don't know if it was because everybody's waiting for the Seth and Finn match, or like that Sammy's promo to start it off, like just helped it feel like it flew by, because he brought some passion to that, right? Like you felt like he's serious about this, and you're like, yeah, I can't wait for Elimination Chamber. So it's like, I don't know, like I just felt like I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agreed with her. Like I think that definitely flew by. I think the only thing that we could have did without was the New Day and LWO. Like I get it, it just fills time, but
Yeah.
um
Yeah. I mean,
think
it
that
fills
was the
time.
only slow part of the card. I thought like Penta and Pete Dunne was awesome. Um we saw Gunther and Jay get into it a bit. Gunther came through the crowd like Jay does. You know, Dakota Kai is getting a title shot. We had AJ and Dom. Braun showed up. I mean, yeah. What's your thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. Like, I could probably go without. I definitely could go without the LWO for sure. The New Day, like, I I I can see that point for sure. I don't care. I don't mind it as much just because they're still kind of building this like heel run and right. They're just kind of keeping that alive until they figure out what they're doing with it. I guess. Um, but the LWO I could do without for sure, only because I don't really understand the point anymore. Um, with the LWO. Um, but otherwise, yeah, no, I thought it's just a decent show. I mean, they've been, for the most part, really decent shows, and they've got a lot going on. And the format, the 2.5 is like the sweet spot for sure. I think that's the sweet spot on time. It gives us enough to get to what you want to get to without being constrained by the 2 hour mark, but it doesn't leave us, sitting there going 3 hours is too long. Like the show needs to end,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It just felt smooth, right? Like it just felt like it made sense. Um, I mean, and I don't like I'm trying to think. Like I saw something. Hang on, I just want to make sure I got this right. Yeah. So, for instance, now this is back from February 10th, but WWE Raw 210 ranks 8th globally with 2.8 million views on Netflix. They're obviously happy with that, right? On February 3rd, they hit 3.1 globally. So, I mean, which is crazy because, okay, here, let me read this to you, Dan, and then you tell me which one you think had them both views from the Raw on February 10th. You had Finn snapping at Dominic, Jay choosing Gunther, Dirty Dom cuts off AJ Styles during his return, Logan Paul taunts Punk, Dakota Kai and Io Sky fight Liv and Raquel. Which one do you think had the most views?
Say them. Say them again. Say the first, or
So
go through them again.
you had Finn snapping at Dirty Dom. You had Jay choosing to challenge Gunther at WrestleMania. Dirty Dom cutting off AJ's promo on his return. Logan Paul taunting Punk. You had Dakota Kai and Io Sky taking on Liv and Raquel.
I mean, most views. I'm going either Jay or Punk and Logan.
Finn Balor snapping at Dirty Dom, 729,000.
Now, where did that? Do you know from there? Because I can't think of it right now. Where did that happen in the show?
So I think that happened after the Jay thing because I believe they started Raw with Jay.
They started with Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at that. I mean, sometimes the placement helps, right? Like, you come off a super hot segment and you
Yeah.
probably have gained the most you're going to gain, and then they stay for a little bit. But yeah, that surprises me.
Right. Yeah, I found that interesting. But you got to think they're happy, right, with this, right? If they're anywhere between 2.5 and 3.1, 3.2, it's probably seen as a success, right?
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, yeah, there's nothing more to talk about with that. Like, they have to be pretty happy with all that going on. Um, Especially with how white hot Jay has been, too. Every show so far, we've had 3 to 4 yeets going on back to back to back, right? So, um, like, do you take anything big from this Raw that occurred on 217? Like, was there anything that really caught your interest?
I don't take anything all that big, but like whatever they're developing with Punk and Logan is interesting to me. It's just a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah,
Um, it should be pretty good as a war of words. I don't know if it's headed to a match, but um a specific match, but obviously they'll play something in the chamber to this story, which is just going to be interesting to see. But just it's like the original bad boy against the new bad boy in that sense,
yeah,
right? Like, so it's kind of interesting to me, whatever that's going to develop into, or
yeah,
at least that they're leaning into it because they can, right? Because it'll play out in the chamber a little bit.
yeah. Agreed, without a doubt, 100% agreed. Um, yeah, I mean the things that I took from this, right? Like, cause I've been high on Roxanne Perez, ever since NXT got her. I thought that was huge to see her come on Raw first night on Raw. She basically cashes in her opportunity, beats Raquel as Raquel got distracted, and gets a spot in the chamber. I think that's huge, but then again, it shows how much faith that they have in her. So I'm sure she'll be ready for that opportunity. I thought Penta versus Pete Dunne was the perfect type of styles clash. Just with how hard Pete Dunne hit, you really don't see a lucha type wrestler, give that type of beating, right? Then they
Mm-hmm.
usually use their speed, they catch you off guard. They're constantly jumping off the ropes. They're, splashing you from all over parts of the ring. But this was like a physical beatdown between these two. And I thought that was
Yeah.
perfect. Like it was the perfect match to like to just like help the card continue on, right? Because we saw the passion with Sammy. And then we saw Gunther mocking Jay by coming through the crowd and trying to get the crowd to go, come on, do it. Do the yeet so I can see it. Like, do it. And then Gunther starting stuff with Pat when he asked Pat, do you really think Jay can beat me? And Pat's like, yeah, I hope he can beat you. And then Jay comes out and they go at it as like a very similar to when Brock and Goldberg were feuding, right? Like,
Yeah.
just with all the security involved. Jimmy started super kicking one or two of the security guards too, which was hysterical. But and then Seth and Finn. I mean, let's be honest. That's a WrestleMania match we've all been dying for, right?
Yeah.
Then that was just beautiful to end the show. That was the perfect put away of like aggression and passion tied into a match. They had so many false finishes, but these false finishes made sense with like pedigrees and the stomps being given, and then the broken arrow suplex, and then Seth almost hitting the superplex off the top. It was just perfect storytelling all in a card for one night, and I think that's what made it just take over, right? Like it was that good. It was probably better than the previous 3 weeks, but it was just so well put together. And I think just watching this card, it brings me back to Michael Cole's line. He said, Netflix interest in WWE was because they can see the storytelling that WWE does. And that's spot on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Spot on. So, I mean, 10 out of 10 on this for me. It was awesome. And it's a good build, too. Like, it's a good card to build for the Chamber in 13 days. Like, it's going to be awesome. So, real quick, let's start with, well, Jay and Gunther are not till Mania, but you think Jay wins it, or you think WWE pulls the rug out from under us again and Jay doesn't get a title?
I think Jay wins it.
I do too.
I think Jay wins it. I think pulling the rug out, I mean, that's always possible for sure, but I think pulling the rug out here isn't the same as having pulled it out with Cody.
That's fair.
Because Cody had that big layoff too, right? Like because of the injury. I still think that had Cody not had that injury, he would have won at the first WrestleMania. But since he didn't really get to chase the same way, I think that's why they. Because remember, he had that injury after Hell in a Cell, right? Like,
oh, the bicep or the pec, right?
yeah, right. So then he was out for a while.
Yeah.
And he couldn't chase Roman, and then they put him into the Rumble, and he won, and that was the story. But it wasn't the same, right? Like it just wasn't the same. So I think they would have likely had him back. I mean, had him win had that not happened. So I think if you pull the rug out with Jay, people are going to be pissed and people are going to be disappointed. And Jay's still going to be very white hot, but then there's going to be a real short time frame before they just kind of give up on that, I think.
The people give up on it, or WWE gives up on it?
No, fans give up on it of caring as much. Like, you know, they're not going to stop liking Jay, but they're just going to be like, because they're almost going to be like, it's like coming off that high of he got there, and then you're disappointed, and it's like it's hard to get back to that high you were on with him. So, and then I said it before, he won the Royal Rumble, which I didn't expect nor really see coming. I thought it needed to happen this year. We've had that conversation. Like, does Jay need a title or the title? And I said yes, and it has to happen this year, or they lose the chance to make it something special. So not doing it at WrestleMania makes it even harder for me if they don't do it right away. So
yeah,
I think he takes it. I mean, Gunther's had a great run for sure.
he has.
So I don't think there's anything bad about him losing, and maybe they give him a little of time off, and maybe maybe, you know, if you wanted to, whoever wins the other title, maybe the next night Gunther's chasing that one now.
I think you have to. That was going to be my point.
Right?
I think if Jay wins, you have to bump Gunther up in the following year. That, like, he's had that title, right? But now he wants the big title. And that could possibly lead to us getting Cena versus Gunther, right? Because Cena's probably going to be on track for a title shot.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, I could totally see. I mean, especially if, let's just say Cody keeps that title and Gunther comes out the next night and says, I'm challenging you and I want to avenge my loss at Crown Jewel. And I want it for that belt. Boom. Story.
Yep.
There you go.
The only thing
and you do it, you know, and maybe even he's the guy to dethrone Cody for a bit. I don't know.
Yeah. But don't forget, we're getting Goldberg back at the next Crown Jewel. So that was kind of already portrayed of Goldberg and Gunther, which I don't think nobody sees or wants to see. Gunther's recent title run, since he took it back from Damian Priest, better or worse than his prior title run?
say Gunther's run
currently.
as opposed to prior to Damien,
Yeah.
it's better.
Yes. I think it's 1,000 times better. I think they had him lose to Damien so that it could almost elevate him up for when he gets it again, right? Because he went through that phase of where he was kind of hating himself. He didn't know what like he wanted to do, right? Like
Right.
he was kind of lost without the title to the point where like Damien was picking on him about it, right? So, yeah, it's interesting, man. Very interesting. I think Jay takes it as well. I think you can continue to have Jay white hot if he doesn't win it. But then I think you have to attach him back to the bloodline story somehow to keep him white hot. I think Jay doesn't stay white hot by himself. But I think if Jay does get the title, personally, what I would write if I was Brian Jarowitz, brother versus brother somehow. Pick a card that you know that you kind of need batch for. Had Jay extend the offer, Jimmy versus Jay for the title.
I guess I mean I don't know because I just don't see Jimmy in the title picture, right?
Right,
So,
but I just think it tells the story of brother versus brother, which is something that the
I
Usos
mean
have said.
we got that at WrestleMania 2 years ago.
Yeah, but now it counts.
Well,
Like it's not just a sub story to a story; it's the story.
yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it, like we said before, like it can go 12 different ways, and we're just gonna have to wait and see. Which is why pro wrestling has been so good. So, yeah, that's all I had on Raw. Was there anything else you want to talk about involving Raw, Dan? Because there was b- b- Michael Cole story that I wanted to run by you.
No, nothing on Raw.
All right, so let's jump to the Michael Cole story then. First of all, did you see he came out and said his contract has 8 more years on it? How long do you think he signed a contract for? 30 years? That he has 8 left?
Well, you know what's funny about that? I wonder if I didn't see that, but I wonder if he signed, those kinds of contracts. Like, did they do a kind of contract where they say, look, we're going to sign you to a 15-year contract, let's say. We expect the first 10 of this contract to be you still doing what you're doing today in the booth, right? Commentating, whatever he does related to backstage priority. And then after that, like at some point, you're going to get out of the booth, you're going to retire from that, but we don't want you to go anywhere. So we're going to need you to take a different role internally, right? Like you're going to be a guy backstage. You're probably going to help produce commentators maybe in the future from the back. Maybe you're going to be, I'm sure he has other duties than just commentating, right? Like they typically do.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if he signed a deal like that that's intended to take him through one or two stages additional to what he is now, right? Like they kind of the original deal that they were going to do like that was Brett, a 20-year deal, which wasn't going to be all wrestling, right? Like it was going to be, this will take you through the end of your career. And then this is the beginning of the first ever Legends contract, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, my guess is they must have put him to, it's more than a talent contract for sure, is my guess.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, it looks like I don't know if you call it the Logan Paul podcast, but Michael Cole was technically a guest on the podcast, I guess, because Tiffany Stratton canceled on Paul. So that's kind of why he was there. But I guess in the spring of 2024, he re-upped, and that's where we get the 8 years from. But wasn't there an article a few months ago we were talking about on the podcast how they wanted like Corey Graves to be the next guy on Raw, like to take over with Pat, right? Because that's why they were doing the 3-guy table at a time.
Yeah, clearly something changed at some point.
Yeah, it's
I do remember a little bit of that story, but I guess they probably just didn't see development out of Corey that they wanted.
yeah, it's strange, right? Like it's but I guess he signed a contract in the spring. So that's where he said 8 years, which he's been going since 1997. He's been a backstage interviewer to a wrestler and now to announcer. Crazy career, man. But to bring up the Corey Graves thing, obviously Logan Paul asked him about it because, you know, Logan Paul likes to pull people out in the spot like this, even though you're not supposed to bring up the country of Japan on his podcast. So, but for anyone that didn't see it, Corey Graves had a tweet out last month. I think it was in between. It was leading up to a Raw where Pat was coming back, and Corey Graves basically said, "Imagine chasing your dream, then being told, in parentheses, not deciding that you're no longer physically able to pursue your dream. Then you dedicate your life to something dream adjacent, and being pretty effing awesome at it. And then when it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, being told you're not famous enough for your own job, just in case you've wondered where I've been." So that's him basically taking an indirect shot at Pat, right? Pat McAfee, for anybody that doesn't know. That Corey Graves is basically told, you're not as famous as Pat, so we can't put you on Raw. Right? Is that what you would take from that, Dan?
I think so.
So,
not
yeah.
to interrupt, but side note, I don't know. Do you have NXT on in the background?
Yep, it just came on. We got Ethan Page versus Ricky Starks.
He's interrupting the contract signing. I don't have the volume on, so I just turned the captions on. But didn't we talk about this, that you could use Ethan Page immediately just because they can both obviously play off their former employers? And actually, to be honest too, I still don't know if they've actually referred to him as Ricky Starks yet.
Yeah, I just went back to see to when Ava come out of the ring. But yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that as that progresses. But so on the Impulsive podcast, Logan's Paul podcast, he was blatantly asked about it, right? Yeah, so back to the Ricky Starks thing. Now here goes my ADD. It just shows a picture of him on the Jumbotron, and it goes official NXT contract signing.
Yeah, it still doesn't have a name.
And it doesn't show a bar. Yeah.
I went through their Twitter. They haven't said anything. So they're really playing this up. And I don't know if it's because maybe like in real life, they're not sure if they can use that name yet. Or are they just doing it just because everybody's wondering? So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's hysterical. Because that's kind of why we were potting tonight, right? So we can catch this signing. But it's perfect to get Ethan Page in there with Ricky Starks. So, but yeah. So Cole answered Paul back on the podcast in regards to the Corey Graves thing and said, that's a strange situation. I love Corey. Love him to death. I still don't understand all the dynamics of it. I know that he said something on social media that was pretty critical of the company. He tried to explain to everyone that he was trying to generate some interest and maybe type up a storyline. I don't think the company saw it that way. I think him and the company are working that out. I love Corey to death. He is an unbelievable commentator. Besides Pat McAfee, he is the best partner I've ever had.
Yeah. It's a little weird that he said the first part and then ended it in the second part. Like,
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, because it definitely gives the feel of like everybody, like we know what Corey Graves said he was doing it as, right? But it definitely feels like everybody in the company was like, okay, thanks for the excuse, but we don't believe it type of thing, right?
Right, and also if you're trying to do that, why wouldn't you go to like someone ahead of time and be like, "Hey, can I get like cuz it wasn't all that long ago. I thought I heard the rumors that he's been medically cleared again.
He's
So
been
we
training.
all thought something was coming and then this was just a part of that, right? Like
Or like if you're really doing this, like wouldn't you work with the company to show up at Pat McAfee's show like Adam Cole did that one time?
yeah, something.
Right? Like something besides just putting out a tweet.
Right. It clearly was just like an excuse.
Yeah.
But
Strange
very
stuff going on,
interesting
but
with
Graves is back on NXT, so
yeah.
but he still gets to talk about wrestling. He's probably paid a buttload, so I get where he wants to be, but I'm sure he'll get a shot again. He just has to prove that he's worth it, right? Which he is. I feel like he is. So, yeah, it'll be interesting, man. Very interesting what's going on with this desk and because to be honest, like with the whole like, oh, Michael Cole might be done thing, and then all of a sudden he's back for the next 8 years. I wonder what his contract salary wise looks like. It has to be a decent penny. So,
Oh, I would assume so.
and there's one more WWE Twitter thing I wanted to get your part in, or get your thoughts on. February 16th, 2025, the Elite Rockers X they post all this wrestling stuff. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, a majority of it is trash. Per PW Insider, Road Dog Brian James.
Ricky Saints is his name.
Ricky
Not
Saints.
Saints.
So
Yeah.
Saints.
Yep. Ricky Saints. You probably haven't seen it yet, but he signed it after getting into a little brawl with Wesley and then they focused on it and said it's called Ricky Saints. So Ricky Starks must be trademarked.
Yeah. But back to the tweet. Road Dog Brian James has been named the new co-lead writer for SmackDown. And then people were just tearing this apart, right? But then all of a sudden, AJ Styles quote tweets this and says, before judging this guy from his past performance as the head writer, just know there was a man who picked it apart to the point it was no longer his ideas anymore.
Okay.
You think that was a subtle shot at Vince there?
Probably.
I think so too.
Probably.
And I kind of like this new era, like after Vince, because I don't think we would see this much Twitter stuff, right? If Vince was still there, right? Because I don't think they would like feel comfortable coming out on Twitter and saying all this stuff, because of just the power that Vince had over them. I don't think people were afraid of Vince. I think they were afraid of getting their contracts canceled, and I think that's two different things, right? So, very interesting tweet. Very interesting beef going around. Should be very, very interesting going forward. And if anybody's watching NXT right now, the Western New York native, Sean Spears, is making his debut. Or not debut, but debut on Netflix tonight with his newly formed stable. So this should be good because Sean Spears has been very, very good since coming back to NXT, storytelling wise and in the ring. But I guess now, Dan, we should transition to the show people say we probably don't talk about. And I even wore my special shirt, Dan.
I noticed earlier that you had that particular shirt on.
My special shirt. Now, as I've told you, I've been trying to catch up on AEW when everybody here in the house goes to sleep. My wife, the kid, the dogs, right? Been trying. If I'm gonna keep writing about wrestling, I should probably watch it all. And that's why I now have the TNA app. Well, have you watched it at all recently, Dan?
I have not, other than what I like just seeing clips on Twitter and TikTok. I have not sat down to watch a show yet.
So the last one I watched was February 12th. I did watch the Collision on the weekend, and I didn't get to watch the show from Australia, but I will be watching it soon. On February 12th, it was in Cedar Park, Texas. So you know they love some cowboy shit there. I like this. I like this Max Caster coming out with a trademark from the United States of the best professional wrestler ever. He has it trademarked with the stamp and seal, and he holds it up and he points to it. For some reason, this cocky gimmick, it kind of reminds me when Jericho had the binder, right? And he would write down your name in the binder.
List.
Yeah, the list.
The list.
It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah.
So he kind of, yeah, exactly, yeah.
You just made the list.
Yeah, like that. So
it was a funny gimmick for a long time.
Yeah, like I think that stuff definitely works in professional wrestling, right? So, but then he pulled like a Cena type angle. He does like an open challenge to anybody, and because they're in Texas, cowboy shit. Hangman Page came out, right? Different type of Hangman Page that we've seen in the past. He seems pissed off at the world. This was the perfect batch for him and Caster. It went 1 minute and 16 seconds, Dan. Clothesline, like forceful clothesline, like caught him in the ring, buckshot, lariat, 1, 2, 3. Like it was the perfect thing to show Hangman's dominance, right? Like,
right,
just how hard he hits, how hard he can hit. It was perfect. Just to run through it real quick, they had the Death Riders versus the Undisputed Kingdom. Death Riders win. Trio match of some Bojo, Shibata, and Hook defeated John Cruz, Rosario Grillo, and Aaron Solo. Besides Aaron Solo, very an indie type match, bringing the big guys, let them beat up the indie guys, so on and so on. Some Bojo and his friends are now called the Ops. So when they catch you on site, or when they catch you in public, it's on site all the time. That's basically. So they're just choking anybody out that they want to choke out.
Perfect.
But fits Joe and Hook perfectly, right? And even Shibata. Like, they don't say much. They show up. They wreck a fight. They had MJF and Dustin Rhodes. I want to talk about that separately. Megan Bain versus Buyout World. Megan beat up on her pretty good. That was pretty simple for her. Chris Statlander defeating Penelope Ford. And the tag match of the Hurt Syndicate versus the Guns. First of all, I text you when I was watching this. The Guns can't take anything seriously. Like, the Hurt Syndicate came out with a new introduction, and the Guns are just sitting there bopping, going back and forth, dancing, while Hurt Syndicate's walking all down, like all swollen and jacked, right? And these two kids are just sitting there enjoying the time of their life and loving all of it. It was great to see. But MJF versus Dustin Rhodes. Catching up on MJF versus Dustin Rhodes, like, MJF had a pretty sharp promo backstage when he was talking to Hangman and basically told him, your friends left you, that's why you can't figure out who you are anymore and you hate the guy in the mirror. So he's still cutting you with these promos, right?
Right.
But the pop that Dustin Rhodes got coming out compared to what MJF got. And MJF is back on using I deserve apology from the fans. So we got that MJF back. So he's recycling material, right?
Yeah.
If they can't keep putting him with legends, one, do you think he's viable anymore to that company? What do you do?
I mean, I think he can be. They probably just have to get out of their own way with what they let him do. Right? Like, feeding him legends is fine when you need something, but they just got to get him back in some main picture. He should be the only guy in your main picture. Right? Like, for the most part, like.
Well, see, that's the thing, because you have Jay White and Edge now going after Moxley and his crew. So you're basically giving Edge the green light to go do whatever he wants to do. And then you have Swerve with Ricochet right now going back and forth. And Swerve says he has to finish this because they show a promo. He said, the last time I finished it, I lost everything. And that's when Hangman burned down the picture of his house. Or actually burned down his house, not a picture, sorry. So it's like, so you would say what? Swerve's the top 5 guy in the company. Mox has to be top 1 or 2 since he has the title.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So fill in between that as you would like. There's really not anything for him to do, right, MJF?
No, but they should keep him. I mean, there's not specifically today, but I mean, they
but
should
just
keep
in
him
general,
somewhat, right? Like they should keep him somewhat in tune with the rest of those guys too, even if he's not necessarily fighting one of them right now. I mean, I don't even remember. Have we even seen an MJF versus Swerve feud that you can think of? Like an actual feud, not just like a match randomly one day.
They had words with each other before when he was with Adam Cole, I believe. But
yeah, so nothing really. Like, I don't know. Like, I just.
Oh, you know what it was? Back in 2023, when Swerve was coming out of the locker room and MJF was walking into the door. They met face to face on camera that time. And that's before Swerve got the title, I think.
Yeah, so they've never had a program though.
No. But that's the closest that they've come.
Right.
So here, because there's a game that I want to play with you to finish the show, but I want to wait on that. So here's this. This is what MJF has done recently. December 2024, World's End pay-per-view, he retained his Dynamite Diamond ring against Adam Cole. Basically, he distracted the ref, low blow, boom, wins it. January 2025, he gets an Antita promo with Jeff Jarrett about Jeff Jarrett's wife and accused Jeff Jarrett of having a history of killing pro wrestling companies. February 2025, MJF responds to comments from Seth Rollins stating that with his current compensation and talent in AEW, he saw no real reason to consider leaving the promotion. So so this doesn't even have the Dustin Rhodes stuff. So it kind of seems like, I hate to do this because I'm trying to be good about the show because I really enjoyed the show that I watched. This seems like a poor version of when they let Randy Orton go on that 2 to 3 year run of being the legend killer, right? Like if there was a legend that showed up to a show, you knew they were getting RKO'd by the end of the show somehow, right? Or at least they were getting that inverted DDT somehow. I mean, Jesus, they let Randy Orton pull Cena's dad out of the stands and gave him the boot kick on the floor.
No, that's right. I forgot
right?
about that. Yeah.
So like it kind of that's my concern is if you're putting MJF in these like okay, he's basically taking out all the legends or he's chasing these guys down. What's left if you have Swerve bottled up in a Ricochet feud and you have your world heavyweight title champion walking around with a female protector going against Edge and Jay White? So so eventually, hypothetically, right? Let me just throw this out there. Who knows? Because I haven't been completely keeping up on the titles or the storylines, but I should. Jesus, I can't talk tonight. Moxley drops the title to either Edge or Jay White. If he drops it to Edge, you can kind of continue the storyline of MJF that thinking he's the best out there out of all the legends. The promos would probably be the promos will be very good on MJF's side. Has there ever been an Edge promo that you sat there and been like, "Oh, that's good"?
I mean, not that I can remember. I'm sure there's been a few, but
yeah, but
not
not that you can
remember.
recall, right? So does that?
Right.
So does Edge with the title versus MJF do anything for you?
No, not really. But there's not a lot of matches that you're probably going to throw in front of me that I'm going to say that.
Right. So it's kind of like that's what I mean. Like it's kind of this is what I was afraid of like MJF's tenure getting stale, right? Because he's kind of stuck at the mercy of the company who's on the roster right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hypothetically, allegedly, supposedly, whatever you want to use to describe this, there's been talks that Josh Alexander is reviewing a AEW deal right now. Also, funny story, did you see that Jordan Grace quote tweeted that story and said, "See you soon, bro"?
No, I didn't see that.
So you know the IWC went after her big time, went after her nonstop, right?
Yeah.
But you get Josh Alexander there, right? How much do you have to build up Josh Alexander to put him in the ring with MJF for it to make sense? Or do you think that crowd is a big enough fan of Josh Alexander that they like, yes, that's what we want to see? MJF and Josh.
I think that crowd's big enough to know about Josh to just be okay with it right away.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean it's tough, right? Because if you look at like AEW's roster, let me pull that up real quick. Because that's the other thing I wanted to ask you. Because I may have had some free time today at work, so can't help it that I'm good at everything I do, Dan. You would say MJF is above the TNT Championship, right?
Yes.
He's too big for that title, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What about the AEW International Champion? Too big for that title? I just don't think it makes sense on him.
I don't think he's too big for it. I don't think he's too big for it. It might not make sense, but I wouldn't say he's too big for it.
Okay. What about Okada and the Continental Championship?
I think that's the same for me as the international one. Like, other than making it make sense, I don't think there's an issue of him being too big for any. To be honest, like all of the titles, with the exception of like the TNT one and the Ring of Honor ones,
Yeah,
for the most part,
he's not going to go get the Ring of Honor ones, right?
Right. So all of the titles minus the TNT title, I think, are fine as long as you make it make sense. Like, I don't think he's above any of them but TNT.
Yeah, because Chris Jericho is the ROH world champion right now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he already did the Jeff Jarrett feud. Would you consider Keith Lee as a legend he goes after? I don't think we've
No.
seen him in forever. I wouldn't either.
No, Keith Lee is not a legend.
So the way that it ended, right? He beat Dustin Rhodes by the crossface. And after Dustin tapped out, the ref came over to see what MJF had on his hand. He kind of swatted the ref away. I hate when they do this. The ref stared at him, turned around, and ran out of the ring. And MJF like kicked the bottom rope, like he actually did something to force the grown man out of the ring. Right? It just didn't make sense. So then MJF sees Dustin there again. He makes the crying gesture to the crowd. He puts Dustin back in the crossface. And all of a sudden, Hangman Page, that hits. And he comes out. And that's what breaks MJF off of Dustin. And Dustin's able to get out.
Okay.
I'm trying to be polite about how I say this. Because, like I said, I enjoyed the show. I did enjoy the show. What does that do for MJF?
Nothing.
Yeah, right? It's just, that would be cool to see, right? Like, it's just something you would talk to your wrestling buddies about. Oh, that's awesome. That type of thing, right? Other than that, it doesn't build him anywhere, right?
No.
It slows down him getting stale. It doesn't do anything for Hangman, because neither of them have a title. So it's like, I don't know, within 6, that's the thing, like, you have to get him into that title shot now, right? For him to stay relevant. Because after a while, like all these cutting edge promos they do, fans are going to be like, yeah, okay, we know you're great on the mic. But really, what does that turn into, right? It's kind of like the Jey Uso stuff. If WWE pulls the rug out from him on Mania, like you said, they got to do something quick, or the fans are going to be like, yeah, that was cool, but now it's stale.
Yeah.
Like, they're both the same type of thing. It's just Jay's isn't a better opportunity because he has the title right in front of him, right? So it makes sense. I guess make it make sense for MJF what's happening. There's nothing happening.
No, it's the problem they just have always had. Like they, or have had for a long time and at different timelines. Like they just focus too much on matches and not enough on storyline. And storyline is secondary to AEW's game plan, right? It's not that they don't try to do story. Sometimes they just don't do good story, but
Right.
they never do great story is what it really boils down to.
Right.
They do storytelling in matches only and then virtually nowhere else. And they just throw matches together all the time. Like you just get very random matches between pay-per-views a lot of times just because they can, right? Like,
right.
And there's a time and a place for that, but that's always what they do, right? So you might, next week, like you said, right now we have Swerve and Ricochet in a program, but next week you're probably going to randomly see Swerve and Hologram again, whatever that guy's name is, right? Like you're just going to see like something random that has nothing to do with Swerve. right? And instead of finding a way to build that story every week, and like, we can go back and look at different stories and stuff like that. I mean, like the Swerve Hangman thing, when you go back at it and look at it, it might have been at times clunky in between because of the way they are. But that story from start to finish with those two was great. Kind of after the fact, right? Like, and then it was like heightened by some shit in matches that we've never seen before. And we don't necessarily need to go back and rehash all of the crazy shit that those two did in their matches. But that enhanced their story because that was the blood feud of all blood feuds that we've seen in a long time. And it had that element, and they were, for a while, every week they were attacking each other and one-upping the craziness. Like you said, burning down a house, which led to Swerve stabbing him with a piece of burnt wood from the house, right?
Yep.
Like,
and then the syringe.
Well, the syringe, yeah. I mean, I don't even want to go back into that.
No,
but
right,
like,
but
yeah, no, 100%. But in between, there was good story. Obviously, we had great story with Punk and MJF, right? Like, and then we had some great matches with them. We had some good story for a while. They were really teasing that 4 pillars thing with Darby and MJF and Sammy, and I can't even think of the fourth one now, but we had something there that they sort of did, but they didn't like capitalize on it. And that's just always their problem, right? Like that the story outside of the ring is secondary to the matches and the fantasy booking. And to me, that's why it's always very disjointed. Yep. And I don't know for sure, but I'm willing, just because I haven't been watching consistently. And like you said, I keep up on social media generally with a little bit of what they're doing. But I would imagine that even with this like Edge and Mox thing and what they're doing there, Edge has been fighting random effing guys in between for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
I mean, I think because obviously, as you know, Big J, my dad has been getting back into watch wrestling after work because it just helps him chill out. And he asked me like about AEW, and the best way I could describe it for him, right, is like when WWE 2K actually put in the patch to allow you to throw somebody through the Hell in the Cell match. You kind of got to go dream book who you would like to see get thrown through the cell, right? And that's kind of what I said to him. That's what AEW is every week on Wednesday. Saturdays feel like a throwaway show, but that's what Wednesday nights feel like. I go, but they always put on a good pay-per-view.
They do typically.
They always put on a good pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But Wednesday night feels like
really do.
You're just booking a video game. And like, what's awesome for this video game, right?
I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah,
I really do think that. I mean, that is the childhood dream Tony coming out, who's just booking matches that he thinks are great matches, and in a lot of cases they probably are, or at least on paper they are. But wrestling fans have become conditioned to great story as part of leading to great matches. Right? Like, I mean, maybe not as much in New Japan, right? Where Tony gets a lot of influence for sure, but that's not what it's like over here. There's certainly a small section of very, very, very dedicated fans that like that too and are excited about that. And most of them are diehard AEW fans for sure. And that's fine. But if you want to appeal to 3 million a week, you got to do storyline like the big guy does.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah.
That's all. And if you don't, I mean, I've said it for years, as long as we've been podcasting, I've been saying this. Maybe they're happy with what they do.
Yeah.
I mean,
they probably are, right? Because they say it's actually wrestling there. That's their tagline.
Right. Right. And here and there, we know talent isn't always happy about it, and that's fine. Talent comes and goes. That's
Yep.
part of it.
Yep, it's a
But
business.
at the end of the day, Tony and whoever else owns it, and reporting up to TNT or Warner Brothers Media and all that, might sit there and go, look, we're not saying if you want, we're not saying you can't become the next WWE if you really want. But we're also happy the way it is right now. So if it continues like this, we're good. We gave you that contract. You were happy with it. We're happy with it. If in 5 years from now or whatever the length of that contract was, everything's still chugging along, we'll do it again. And maybe Tony's happy enough with that. So,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, and to the four pillars: MJF, Darby, Jack Perry, and
Jack
Sammy
Perry.
Guevara.
Yes.
Which
I
I don't
forgot
think
about.
Sammy has been around at all.
I know on Twitter I've seen a few things here and there. It does seem like he's completely slowed down post baby for sure.
Yeah.
I know he's been traveling though, because he had a vlog from Australia for the Grand Slam thing. Oh yeah, because isn't he still he's still tag team champs with Dustin and Ring of Honor, actually.
Oh, okay.
So maybe he's only been doing some Ring of Honor stuff lately.
Yeah, which is weird, right? Because if he's still your fourth pillar or one of your four pillars, why have him on the secondary show?
Yeah, they had a show. AEW and Ring of Honor presents Global Wars Australia, which was a Ring of Honor show on Honor Club, and it was Sammy and Dustin, the Sons of Texas, versus the MXM collection, which is Mansoor and I can't think of his name, but the other guy that was in Eminem at WWE there.
Yeah. So
Mason Madden and Soren Mason. But yeah, it's a little odd, but they kind of gave up on that four pillars thing after that whole four-way match they did, which was, if you remember, that was back when MJF was into that version of him where all he did was scream in the ring. Remember how annoying that was for a while?
yeah.
When he would just scream all the time, like
Yeah.
whenever somebody would do a news on him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the show, and I know I'm one of the ones to jump on it. You know, the most. So to end the show, Dan, I wanted to read out some career accomplishments across multiple promotions of wrestling, okay?
Okay. I'm ready.
And you tell me if you think MJF will have a better or worse career.
So you're not going to tell me the person, you're just
Nope.
going to tell me the accomplishments?
Yep.
And this is me guessing, though, based on MJF still having another 10, 15 years in this business,
He
right?
probably has 15 years if he stays healthy, right? Because
That's
he's
what
only
I'm
been
saying.
hurt once, I think, right?
Right, and he's still, isn't he only late 20s?
I think so.
He's no more than early 30s.
He's 28. March 15, 1996 is his birthday.
I mean, so yeah, he's got
15
I would
years.
say, yeah, 12 to 15 years easy, as long as he stays healthy, yeah. So, but I'm going to count what I think he can do in the next 12 to 15 years.
Yeah. So, like,
Okay.
I'm going to read you some accomplishments.
Okay.
No matter the promotion that they're in, right? You tell me if you think MJF will have a better or worse career, okay?
Yeah.
So, we're going to start off WWF. Won the Intercontinental Championship once, was a World Tag Team Champion once, and won the WCW United States Championship once. This wrestler also headlined WrestleMania, and he headlined Starrcade. You think this wrestler has a better or worse career than what MJF will end up as?
I think MJF will have a better career.
So MJF will have a better career achievement than Roddy Piper.
Oh, oh, that's rough. Yeah.
Okay. I thought
that I was sitting there going like, who could this be?
So I picked him first starting off, right? Because they're both very straight to the point when they get on a promo, right? Like they're not afraid to say anything to you. And that fits Roddy perfectly, right? So, all right, we're going to go now to the WWE time frame. World Heavyweight Championship 7 times between 02 and 13, which the equivalent to that would be then if he stays with AEW, MJF would have to win it 6 more times to tie. He won the WWE Championship 4 times, the Intercontinental Championship 5 times, the US title 1 time, the World Tag Team Championships 12 times, which is a WWE record, and the WWE Tag Team Championships twice. He was King of the Ring in 2001, Money in the Bank in 05 and 07, won the Rumble in 2010 and 21.
MJF will not have a better career.
So the rated R superstar will continue to have a better career than MJF, right? That's what you're saying? Like that MJF will not tie any of these with an AEW.
Yeah.
I think the
within AEW. See, my thing is in the next, I do expect him to go to WWE at some point.
I don't see it.
I do, but the problem's going to be is if he's waiting out a current AEW contract, which I think we believe is for 5 years minimum.
Yes.
That puts him 32.
Yeah, 32 turning 33. Yes.
Yeah, by the time he's out, even if he goes to WWE then, he could still be there for 8 to 10 years, but I mean, who knows? Because, 5 years from now, we have no clue what the wrestling landscape will look like. But I still think he goes to WWE at some point, but I don't know. I don't see him winning all those accolades. And the other thing to consider for me, are 7 AEW World Heavyweight Championship title reigns going to equal 7 in WWE? I don't think so. So, I'm weighting what you do in WWE a little bit heavier than what you did outside of WWE.
No, right, and that's why I said it would just have to be equivalent, right? Because I'm just trying to keep it across, right?
But yeah, based on the accolades, whether or not if you told me MJF or Edge will have a better career, I mean, I think Edge had. I still think I'd say that. It's interesting to do this blindly. It's definitely very interesting. I like this, but I'm okay with saying that Edge will have a better career than MJF does.
I think that's fair.
There's gonna be a crazy curveball in here where you're gonna list out accolades, and I'm gonna go, nah, and then you're gonna tell me oh, it's Steve Austin, and I'm gonna be like, oh shit,
Yeah, well, that's kind of what the Roddy Piper thing, right?
Yeah. Although Roddy,
he didn't really get a push to go get everything,
right? And I think Roddy's a legend in his own right, but I think you're going to say there's a lot of guys that obviously had better careers than Roddy, but Roddy played a very particular role, a crazy antagonist,
Yeah.
a fan favorite at times, always an antagonist though, always a guy that you could have a story with, but never. Roddy was, to a degree, the guy you never needed to put a title on. The only time you possibly would have wanted to put like the world heavyweight title on him was a little bit in WCW, I think, when he was doing the Hogan thing. And it was all about like how Hogan kept him from getting a title, right? And it's like, I'm going to take the one thing from you I've never been able to take, even though I've feuded with you 100 times over the years, you know? But anyway, so yeah, keep going.
Okay.
This is fun.
I got 3 more, I believe. So this is across some indie promotions and Impact Wrestling. 2-time Impact World Championship, including the longest reigning World Championship. 1 Impact X Division Championship, which I guess the Impact Championship you could kind of say is equivalent to the title that Okada has, I would say, at AEW. And then 2-time Impact World Tag Team Champion. And then this person has also been an AEW Heavyweight Champion twice, an Absolute Champion once, A1 Alpha Male Champion 4 times, C4 Championship once, Clash Championship once, CBPW Championship twice, DFW Championship once, DWW Championship once, Tag Team FPW Tag Team Championship once, and GCW Tag Team Champion once. So obviously this athlete has accomplished a lot on the indie scene and continued that with Impact Wrestling.
I'm still going to go MJF long term over this person.
Okay. Any thoughts to who this is?
I have no idea who this is.
Josh Alexander.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because anybody who's not made it mainstream is a real wild card for this debate. Because some people are going to tell me I'm crazy. Josh Alexander's been everywhere. He's had success everywhere, but like, you know, like I mean, me personally, like I'm more of a mainstream fan. I'm not going to care about the DFW World Heavyweight Championship.
Well, and the thing was,
you know,
Josh had to do that, right? MJF didn't have to do that.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing. The next one, a World Wrestling Federation and World Wrestling Entertainment 2-time Intercontinental Champion, 4-time European Champion, 5-time Hardcore Champion, my favorite belt, 4-time World Tag Team Champion, and 2008 King of the Ring winner. He's also a 4-time WCW Television Championship and a 1-time MCW Southern Heavyweight Champion.
Was there a WWE Heavyweight World Championship in there?
2-time Intercontinental and 4-time European Champion and 5-time Hardcore and 4-time Tag Team.
Yeah.
And 2008 King of the Ring. There was a 4-time Television Championship. They did have the Heavyweight Championship, but that was for Memphis Championship Wrestling.
I'm trying to think of who the hell this is. I'm going to go...
If it helps, this person has also trained Bryan Danielson and Chris Hero.
Oh, yes. Okay. Then I know now. This is tough. I'm teetering on this one, but I think MJF can be more successful long term.
Okay.
Or have a better career long term. Is this Regal?
Yep.
Yeah. That's a tough one because Regal's another one. He's a legend. He's a legend in his own right for sure, but never having a mainstream heavyweight title kind of hurts
Right.
in this
But
debate.
he was in the storyline though back during that time, right? Like he was always the bad guy that tried to get the
Oh yeah.
one up. He just
And
never
for
could
when
get over it, right? And
yeah,
it was
and
stacked back then, stacked.
and in fairness to him, the European Championship meant more when he was carrying it. It wasn't like a throw-in title.
No,
Like they
it
made
actually
a big thing of it. Yeah.
Agreed.
So in his defense of not having, that was like having a world title for him.
Correct.
For sure. I forgot he had the hardcore title that many times.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, he loved those hardcore matches.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I just forgot him having the championship that often.
Okay, let me just get this. Okay. While that one loads, let me get this one. I got two more for you, and then you could tell me who you think MJF compares to, in your opinion, throughout wrestling. So here we go. Ready? Won the WWF Championship 6 times. The Intercontinental Championship 2 times. Won the $1 Million Championship once. The WWF Tag Team Championship 4 times, and won the 96 King of the Ring.
Wait, say the first two again.
The WWF Championship 6 times. The IC Championship twice.
Okay. No, MJF will not have a better career, but I think I know who this is. So like if I have my timing right on that, then there's no way I can say MJF would be better than, is this Austin? Yeah. Yeah. I think I would have said it anyway. Like the 96 King of the Ring was what sealed it for me, obviously. But 6 WWE championships is a lot. Like it's gonna be hard for MJF to beat that unless he gets to WWE and wins it a bunch of times.
Well, and if you think about it, just like how you talked about the European Championship back then with Regal, there's no title, there's no secondary title besides the World Heavyweight title that carries that type of gravitas that the IC title and the European title held back during the Attitude Era. Right. Like those were big titles. Like you had Ken Shamrock going after the IC title every day. So it's like okay, here you go. Let me get this one up for you. Okay. All right. Won the WWE Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, the WCW Championship, the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, and the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Won the WWF European Championship and the WWF Intercontinental Championship in 2000, and became a 6-time world champion for WWF/E from 98 to 06.
Who the hell is this? The IWGP one is what's throwing me off on who this could be. God, I'm not good at the trivia part of this. I will say MJF will not have a better career than that. That's a lot of championships in multiple promotions.
Yep.
That's like an all-around. Who is this? I'm like completely blanked on this.
This is Kurt Angle.
I just learned today that he won the IWGP. I did not know that. When did he win that?
He beat Brock.
How did I miss that? I like totally forgot. Like if I knew, I forgot.
Did you ever? So you obviously never seen that match then?
No.
Well, which is kind of crazy.
2007.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy because he took the IWGP IWGP Championship to TNA shortly after that. And TNA referred to him as the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And here's a trivia for you, Dan. Angle lost the IWGP title to somebody that held or is holding the United States Championship. Any idea who?
Is holding it now? Shinsuke?
Yep. In 08.
You know what? I barely remember that this has happened, but no, I've never actually seen the match. But when you said Lesnar, it jogged my memory that I was aware that it happened. I totally forgot that Lesnar carried that belt and that Angle won it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I totally forgot about that. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, so all right. Yeah. I think I'm still good with that answer that MJF won't have a better career than Kurt. Kurt's probably a little underrated when it comes to these conversations, wouldn't you say?
So a follow-up to that, is Kurt on your Mount Rushmore?
No, but no, he's not. But what I'm saying now is that he probably should be more in that conversation than he is. I don't think a lot of people would put him on a Mount Rushmore or even debate his name for it, and maybe they should be. That's kind of what I'm saying. I think he's underrated in that sense.
I have him in
his resume.
I have him in my top 3.
Yeah, I get that thinking about it, but I can't get there just because, like, again, like I my problem is like I just can't let go of, like, you know, what I saw as a kid and then what I saw in college. Like, those guys are always going to be the ones that I think, like, this is like the Jordan LeBron debate for a lot, or Kobe, right? Jordan Kobe debate for a lot of people. For me, it's always going to be Jordan, but I grew up with Jordan, right? Like, I thought Kobe was an amazing basketball player, and Kobe might have been more talented in certain ways, but, like, to me, nobody can beat Jordan. You know, and
the Jordan of his generation.
Right, and I'm sure I could find a bunch of people that would tell me, you're crazy, it was Kobe for a lot of different reasons. And I just sit there and be like, I don't know, I watched Jordan and nothing beats it. But then you have people that'll come and say, well, you guys are nuts. Like, you never watched Magic and Worthy and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Like, those guys, you know, like, so anyway. Yeah, Kurt Angle, probably does deserve more discussion in that top 5 debate for a lot of people, I bet.
Yeah. Well, and I have Kurt in my top 3 because of what he did in Japan. Because I've always been a fanboy of Japan in the Tokyo Dome. So, like, growing up watching that stuff, like, obviously, you know. All right, final one, and then you can tell me who you think, your opinion of where MJF is or is going to be. All right, let's go. Okay, PWG Tag Team Championship 1 time, NWA Champion World Heavyweight 1 time, Ring of Honor 6-Man Championship 1 time, Ring of Honor World Championship 1 time, IWP United States Heavyweight Championship 1 time. He was the AEW Revolution 2020 winner. He is a TNT 3-time championship holder. He's the 24 men's. He won the Rumble twice. He's a tag championship 3 times. He's a World Tag Team Championship 3 times, a WWE Tag Team Championship 3 times. He's an Intercontinental Championship 2 times, and he's a WWE Champion 1 time.
Yeah, so I know who this is. I used to think MJF could have a better career than him, but I think it's hard to beat. I don't think MJF will beat Cody. I assume it's Cody.
Well, that's the thing too. Is Cody still going too, right? So it's like,
Yeah. Well, that too. Although I mean, we should debate this someday, but like I could see Cody potentially never having a world champion run again after this.
wait, he would not have a championship run again after this.
Once he loses this belt, I'm not sure I see him having another run. Maybe he gets one with the other belt, the other world championship, but it wouldn't shock me if he never has a championship, holds a world championship in WWE again after this. It just wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Because like, would you go back to Roman chasing him again?
Well, I mean, I just in general too, I just think like, you know, it's just possible that he played a very significant role in, what were they calling it for a while? Weren't they calling it the Renaissance era for a while with Cody?
Yeah,
Like, he played a very important role in resparking something there, for sure. And maybe even being a little bit of a stepping stone to another level, and then they just took it from there. And I just could see him like kind of just being a role player for a while, kind of like Cena had done for a while towards the end too. Like for a while, it was like Cena was doing certain things, but he really wasn't winning. I guess I could look that up, but like, um, I just wouldn't be shocked if he never gets another run. I mean, who knows? In 2 years or whatever, it could be different. But
yeah. I mean, it's tough, right? Because you gotta hope somebody's ready when you get ready to dump the title from Cody. So is Braun up there? Is Oba up there? Is Trick up there? Like, do the crowd love them? Is it Gunther? Is it Jay? Is it somebody else in the bloodline? Right. So, very, very interesting. I guess to finish this podcast, Dan, if you had to think of a wrestler where you think MJF would have a similar career of, is there anybody that comes to mind that I should have asked about?
oh, I mean, I don't know if there's somebody, but I mean, you certainly. I don't think. I mean, you could go through. I mean, we could go through a long list of people. You could ask this question about guys like Roman and Seth, and
But
you know, maybe even guys within AEW. Like, will he have a better career in the end than Hangman?
he's
And
already has.
well, I think he already has, but they're still going too, or um, you know, certainly he's had a better career than most guys in AEW, but a lot of those guys are young too and aren't done, right? Like, you know, we not that he's a young guy, but like Penta is going to have a resurgence of his career now too,
Yes.
right? So you could like put him up against like somebody like that who maybe pre WWE we would say no, they're not going to have a better career than MJF. And I'm not saying Penta does or doesn't, but if they go to WWE, who knows? Like, right? Like Ricky Starks or Saints, Ricky Saints. I guess I'm going to have to get used to calling them that. By the way, I looked that up. From what I can tell with the trademark search, Ricky owns that trademark. Maybe he wasn't willing to give it to them.
Yeah, because they probably wanted ownership of it, right?
Yeah.
Here, while you were talking, I thought of one more that I kind of want to ask you. You ready?
Yeah.
Let me just double check something here real quick. Um, Yeah, I just want to make sure I got this one line right. Okay, here, ready? WWE Championship twice, World Heavyweight Championship 3 times, ECW World Heavyweight Championship 1 time, WWE Intercontinental Championship 1 time, World Tag Team Championship once, ROH World Championship once, and the AEW World Championship twice.
Well, I thought I knew who this was until you got to the Ring of Honor stuff. I will say MJF will not have a better career.
And this person was also the Money in the Bank winner in 08 and 09, the first back-to-back Money in the Bank winner. And he had the longest reign of the modern era for the WWE Championship at 434 days. Do you have any idea?
I still don't, actually. I don't know why, but I still don't. But I'll still keep my answer. MJF will not have a better career.
CM Punk.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think because I was starting to draft an article on this, I think the ceiling for MJF is Seth Rollins. Because if you think about it, Seth Rollins hasn't held the World Heavyweight Championship in 10 years. But he's still in the storylines.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, I think 2 years ago I would have disagreed with that, but I think 2 years now, like today, I agree with that. 2 years ago, I thought there was a ton of potential in MJF and I really thought that potential could get realized if he had jumped ship instead of re-signing with AEW, but he
Agreed.
didn't. So that might be his fate, for sure. But then again, like I said, he's young in
Yeah.
that sense. So
I mean, here's a
it might
quick
not matter.
right. But here's a quick overview of Seth. Ready? He was the WWE Grand Slam champion, WWE World Heavyweight champion, Universal champion, Intercontinental champion, United States champion, Ring of Honor World Championship, Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship.
Yeah.
I think that fits.
Yeah, I think that fits too.
Because Seth has technically only held the heavyweight belt once. Right.
Yeah.
So MJF has only held the AEW heavyweight belt one time.
If we have time, I want to do two for you that I thought of.
Go ahead.
But since I know the name, so I'll do this. So the first one I'm going to do, WWE champion, WWE championship twice, 8-time intercontinental champion, 2-time United States champion for WWE, 5-time tag team champion in WWE, 2-time Money in the Bank winner, a Grand Slam champion, and ranked number 1 of the top 500 single wrestlers in PWI 500 once. That's all I'm going to give you. That's all really the accomplishments.
You said 8-time Intercontinental Championship?
Yeah.
Miz.
It is Miz. But you're supposed to answer about MJF first.
It's tough.
It is tough, right? Miz is another one, like very accomplished, but it's been forever.
Him. Yeah, and everybody hated him, right? Like he wasn't supposed to get this far.
I mean, he was ranked the number 1 wrestler. 8
times is a lot, man. 8 times is with 1 belt is a hell of a lot. And he beat John Cena in 27, right?
And he's the first 2-time Grand Slam champion, and I don't. he may still be the only.
Yeah, MJF is not going to get that.
Right, but like when you say The Miz, you pause, but when you read that resume, you don't pause, right? Like it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, because you go to what the character is, right? Rather than what's been accomplished.
And technically, I missed a couple of tag team championships in there because I forgot that there was a SmackDown one for a while.
Yeah, but that further some bits are
claimed. Well, and I didn't realize that he was ranked number 1 in the PWI 500 in 2011. Which was also the year he was the most hated wrestler of the year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last one. This one's just an interesting one. 2-time NWA heavyweight champion. 1-time NWA television champion. 2-time WCW United States champion. 6-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, 3-time WCW Tag Team Champ, 4-time TNA World Heavyweight Champ, 1-time TNA Tag Team Champion. That's all I'll give you. That's all I have. Whether or not that's MJF will be better than that. This is a curveball one. I'm very interested, but already your pause makes it interesting.
Yeah, because I'm trying not to go at the character.
You know who it is?
Lex Luger?
No.
Who?
It's Sting.
2-time NWA championship?
Yeah.
1-time television, 2-time UFC championship. Was there a WCW World Heavyweight in there?
Yeah, 6-time WCW World Heavyweight. I left out WWE Hall of Fame because it would have given it away for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And then multiple 4-time TNA heavyweight champion. One of his NWA championships technically was with TNA, but because they had NWA for a while when they first started.
Yeah.
Oh, I also left off AEW World Tag Team Champion, but that would have given it away too.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean,
it's tough with the resume because like you say the name Sting and it's like, oh my God, like legend for sure. That's another Roddy Piper one. Like he obviously had a lot of accolades, but obviously they're older accolades.
But this is the thing, right? Like, so these guys that we've named, Miz has been the only one that is kind of just only been successful at WWE. Because that's the only opportunity he's ever needed, right? The rest of these guys have been journeymen that have proven everywhere. So part of it is, like, is MJF going to be the journeyman that goes and says and bets on himself, right? Or is he going to be like the Miz and stick it out at AEW for however long? The only problem is Miz got those opportunities because he had storylines. MJF doesn't get storylines as we're currently witnessing.
No, I mean, for me, I said at the beginning too, like my deciding whether or not I think MJF will be better or have better careers than any of these people is an assumption he will eventually make it to WWE and be successful there. if he doesn't do that, I don't think he becomes more successful probably than any of these people. I think he has to jump ship, or
Yeah.
AEW has to completely change. One of the two things. And
Yeah.
I don't think AEW will ever completely change.
Agreed.
But
No,
one of the two things needs to happen.
For MJF to get his potential, he has to go elsewhere. Yes, I agree. I 100% agree with that. I don't think that's wrong in any way. I just think he has to be willing to do it, right? So, but yeah, good times, good game, Dan. That was fun. We'll have to do it again just to see if we can guess and compare other people. But if you missed it today on NXT, Jordan Grace and Julia and Stephanie Velka will fight Fatal Attraction. And Obi Fema, when he had the call out, Moose showed up. And we got Lexis King versus Moose for the TNN title next week. So that's going to be a banger because both of those guys can go. Until then, we'll be back Monday or Tuesday. We haven't decided yet. But we got to see how the schedule plans out. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, and you'll probably see some of my articles somewhere soon. Until then, adios. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you later.